if you want to go to the next level, it's about starting where you are right now and then building from there gradually, not trying to go from level 0 to level 100 immediately. Your actual skill set is going to be based on how quickly you progress through those levels, more so than skipping over levels. Because when you skip over levels, you can also skip over some of the lessons that would have helped you maintain that level and get to the next one.
Didn't wanna like it, but now I'm loving every day. I'm going mad, I'm going crazy. I want my flowers, I want my daisies. Yeah, I look good, so does my lady. They try to copy but can't imitate me. She wanna talk, she want relations. Money don't stop.
Y'all doing? It's Aaron Alaniz, host of the Get Your Shit Together Man podcast and CEO and founder of Basics. We are the world's #1 elite fitness and nutrition coaching company for ambitious men all over the world that are looking to build their best body ever within only 16 weeks or less. To find out more information to see for how you qualify to work one-on-one with the Basics team, please visit www.basicsbrigade.com, or if you want to speak on the phone with me directly, use the second link below in the video description of this YouTube video. Check it out on Spotify. You'll see it pretty simply also. And let's dive into today's topic. Also, follow me on TikTok. That's going to be the main driver moving forward for the day-to-day content. IG is going to be there. I'll probably have to outsource that later just because it's not a good high ROI on my time nowadays. I'd rather make podcast episodes, YouTube videos, and TikToks just to because let's be honest, guys, I'm the full package. I got to make sure that we're on video. I got to make sure you hear my voice and make sure that you feel my energy through everything that we're doing. And Twitter, I don't know where Twitter is going to go. Elon might take over, so I got the username reserved just in case. So just follow me on that, right? Today, guys, I want to talk to you all a little bit more about my story and kind of the importance of starting where you are in order to build yourself for a better future later. So in order to tell you all about this, let me tell you all a quick story about my how I got to the point where I'm at today, where now Basics has crossed into 26 states across the country, Canada, Australia, and Sweden. I am based out of the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. I've shaken hands of millionaires, thankfully. I've met people on Zoom that have made 7 figures. I've met people that have done some great things with their life, and they've all been able to see the vision kind of thing. And for that to be even a thing, it's just like insane kind of thing, right? And it all started with me starting where I was, and I'll kind of tell you all about that story right now. For a long time, and again, hopefully you all don't mind the podcast setup today. I just wanted to see how it would feel. You know, my mother ended up saying that she liked this video setup that I did on my first video was just me sitting outside of my truck talking with you all, and just want to test it out to see how it looked, right? And just keep it authentic, right? When it comes down to it, right, my starting point initially when it came down to this whole self-improvement journey was me wanting to get better at wrestling. So as I was wrestling, this was the only sport that I actually was quote-unquote good at to a certain extent, because when I was younger, I grew up doing martial arts, and I would get bullied a lot when I was a kid. So the reason I was good at martial arts and the reason I even got enrolled was because people would pick on me. I was like, Mom, I don't want to get beat up anymore. So they put me in karate and taekwondo and boxing and all these little things that helped me out. So then thankfully when I went into high school, I kind of had that reputation. I was like, oh, you don't want to touch Aaron. You don't want to touch Aaron. Like he'll do something to you kind of thing. And that was kind of what I just had to learn, because people would pick on me for just being myself. And as you start learning, as you start growing older, I started realizing that some of the schools that I was going to didn't have the best socioeconomic backgrounds, just because my mother used to go to schools, because my mother's an educator, right? So she was a principal at many schools, and since she worked at elementary schools, it only makes sense to bring your son to the elementary school that you're working at, right? Just to make sure that he's good, he's not causing any trouble, which I still cause trouble, but you know, that's another story for another day, right? What ended up happening is I would get bullied by these kids, and they were hurt people, you know. So like, turns out I found out years later his dad was like an abuser, this person's mom was mean to them, and it was just like hurting people. So I've learned to forgive all of them nowadays. Obviously, as you're an adult, you get to learn about that. People never hurt you out of being like a powerful person. No one's ever hurting you because of they have such high self-esteem in themselves. It's like because they feel really bad and they can't handle it by themselves, so they have to give it to somebody else in order for them to feel coping. It's like a coping mechanism kind of thing. It's like let's just share the hurt kind of thing. That's a whole nother story for another day, right? So when I was wrestling, what ended up happening was, since this was the only sport that I had an actual chance to be good at, I went all in with it, because I was trying to do football, I tried to do track, I tried to do swimming, tennis, whatever the case may be, and I just wasn't very good at it. So what I had to do was like, man, I got one last year, it's my senior year in high school, I got to go all in. So I decided that year was just all in, everything I got, no matter what. So I cut out all sports stuff that I used to watch. I used to like baseball. No more baseball team. I don't care who watches, who wins the World Series at the time. No more football, no more this, no more that. It's just all in with wrestling. I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm going to be all in, get my mindset dialed in, self-hypnosis, the whole nine. I just kind of figured all this stuff out myself. And it was funny because I ended up doing a lot of these things early on that I didn't realize were like an actual method for creation and manifestation in the physical world. I was praying to God a lot, so I had a lot of faith in myself. I wasn't dating girls, so I was doing a lot of transmutation, if you know what I mean. It was just like me dialing into myself. And I ended up having the best year in high school ever, and I was just being more authentic to myself because who I am naturally is a hard-working man. And sometimes when you feel like people will judge you for that, you don't work as hard, kind of thing. So for me, my genuine authenticity is going as hard as I can, and if I look crazy to you for going hard and chasing my vision, that is what it is, and I'd rather be judged for that than accepted for being someone I'm not, kind of thing. This is what I do. That ended up going wrong for me because I worked so hard that I ended up tearing up my ACL, PCL, and LCL, and then I kind of went down a dark rabbit hole. So after me building up this vision in my head, I just failed miserably just because of something out of my control, kind of thing. I ended up doing a lot of drugs. I started smoking a lot, started drinking a lot, started hanging out with people that had good hearts but were engaging in bad activities, to put it simply. And I let that affect me, kind of thing. So I started, when I went to university, I was blacking out all the time. I was blacking out 3 to 4 times a week. I was engaging in all the wrong kind of activities. I wasn't doing good in school. And I just kind of went down this rabbit hole until maybe like age 19 or 20 when I decided, hey, let me be like a personal trainer. So I did a personal training job, got back in shape because I always knew what I was doing in that regard fairly intuitively, just based off wrestling and self-coaching myself and having trainers and having martial arts coaching when I was younger, and it just helped me out a lot regarding work out this way, do this, and then you'll be fine, right? After that, what I ended up doing was I got a certification. I got peer pressure into taking steroids, anabolic steroids, like testosterone on the whole nine. And I ended up deciding to just embody that energy, kind of thing. So I became that person, which really wasn't authentic to me at the time. And it was just a real dark moment. So after that, the personal training job that I was working at, and again, just follow me along. I promise it's going to relate to what we're doing, right? The company itself ended up going down under. So then I ended up losing a job that I just got recently. I was taking stuff I shouldn't have been taking from one of my coworkers, and then I decided, instead of me actually dealing with the pain of that, me losing the job, because it wasn't only them going out of business, but I was also showing up late. I was very reactive with the job, and I wasn't very proactive in the sales position, so I was just kind of just hanging around. So instead of me actually dealing with the issues that had caused me to lose that job in the first place, I ended up being very away motivated, if you all know anything about those things, where people are motivated towards pleasure and achievement or away from failure. Instead of me actually dealing with the situation that caused me to fail in the first place and the situation to fail, I ended up running towards this another situation thinking that was going to make it better. But here's the thing, guys, just on another side note, if you keep on running away from things that cause you a little bit of pain, and instead of actually solving it and sitting in the fire for a little bit, figuring out what the cause of that situation failing is, and then moving on to a better situation, you're just going to repeat the same mistake over and over. And then you're going to keep on finding that life is trying to teach you the same lesson, but you refuse to learn it because you don't want to face the actual truth. So what ended up happening is, guess what? I carried those same bad habits from the job that I lost into this newer job that I had just earned. And I lost the job within a couple months. So I moved to Austin. I was settled in, and then since I still had the bad habits from my other job, I lost the job. And it was like, oh my, well, they were this. But it's like, man, I would have fired me too. Looking back on it, I would have fired me too. I ended up getting a job at Target, and this is where it's going to come full circle in a bit. I ended up getting a job at Target as a supervisor, kind of thing, just because I knew how to talk to people, and it worked out. I had a cousin that was working there too. And then I ended up saying, hey man, can you get me a job there? He's like, yeah dude, I can definitely do that for you. So I got the job, ended up working myself up to getting a place, or really couch surfing at an apartment downtown in Austin with one of my buddies whose girlfriend broke up with him. He's like, hey dude, I need someone to hand me like $500 a month. Can you do that? I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make that happen. So I ended up getting an apartment downtown in Austin, and I got everything that I wanted to when I moved into Austin. I had that apartment when I was living there. I just had everything. I still felt empty inside. I still had that void. And I kind of realized I was looking for things in all the wrong places. I was looking for it outside instead of inside. And no matter where you are, there you are. I don't know if there's a quote like that, but I've heard that before. Ended up calling my mother saying, hey, I'm going to do something real bad to myself. Can I move back home, if you know what I mean? And she said yes, thankfully. So I ended up moving back home. I was slouching around for a long time. And I'd kind of given up on a lot of ambitions. At the time, my main driving factor was I wanted to make music. I wanted to be a rapper. I wanted to be a producer and do all these things. And I just really never put the pedal to the metal with it. You know, it was just such a hard industry to break into. And as I started learning more about frequency, vibration, so on and so forth, I just realized I don't know if this is really what I want to do, but That's another story for another day, right? Excuse me. In 2020, I was doing, up to that point, I was doing some private personal training. I was going to people's houses, so on and so forth. And then I decided, man, I gotta do something different, kind of thing. So actually, when before the pandemic hit, I ended up getting, obviously with the whole pandemic, what ended up happening is I got out of a job since I was private personal training. Right before the whole lockdown happened, I had a financial aid check come through, and I spent all my money on some music equipment, thinking I was gonna be a rapper. So I got all the VSTs, if you all know what those are, and I got all the plugins, I got all these things, all the mics and everything. And then the pandemic hit and I couldn't do anything. So what I ended up deciding was like, man, I got to figure out a way to put some money on the table, because I didn't have anything. And I was also taking medication at the time for depression, anxiety, and all these things. And what ended up happening is I decided to make a pivot. I remember I just thinking to myself, when I was kind of recovering from not being on the medications because I couldn't afford them anymore, I remember thinking to myself, what are you doing this music stuff for? Are you doing this to serve other people, or are you doing this for yourself and your own passion and your own fulfillment? And I just realized it was just purely selfish for me, kind of thing, just because I like doing it. I was like, okay, well, what can you serve other people from? Because you've done everything, every decision that you made in your life has been about you up to this point. But what can you do for other people? The answer was clear. It was fitness. I was like, okay, well, let me just commit myself to fitness. Let me see what happens. Let me just put all my eggs in that basket and see if I get a different result. And lo and behold, that was exactly what I needed to do, right? As I was going through this journey, and I was obviously in shape, and I was obviously doing my thing, I had to ask myself, man, so how can I actually get to where I want to go? Because up to that point, I was someone who was at ground zero, and I kept trying to go to the next level. And I kept I was doing my best to, like, man, I got to do a morning routine, I got to get a gym workout routine in, I got to go get this, I got to do all these things all at the same time. And then what ended up happening is I kept failing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And obviously when you keep on failing in that manner, you lose a little bit of self-respect for yourself as a man when it comes down to this journey of life, right? And what ended up happening is I just had to ask myself, man, we got to figure out a way to actually progress. And I started thinking about the way video games work. And it's like, video games don't just go from 0 to level 10. You got to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got to go through all the levels, and your actual skill set doesn't make you, just because you're really good doesn't mean that, or you have a lot of potential to be good at a game, doesn't mean that you're going to skip levels. It just means that you get to go through the levels faster. So I was like, okay, well, let me just start from where I am. At the time when I was getting in shape, I was going to the gym, but I was also a social hermit, and I wasn't really doing anything. So I ended up having to make a list with myself and say, okay, man, you got to start where you're at and then go from there. So if I was a social hermit, guess what I was doing? On my life list, which I had a whole bunch of little check marks and little productivity things on this journal that I ended up getting from Target, I had $40 in my bank account, and I spent 15 of it buying the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I spent 20 of it here, so I was left with $5. So I got a journal, used my mother's pens, and then I got that book, and then everything changed in my life, right? So get that book. If you look here on this journal, I'm trying to make sure you can zoom. And again, ignore this thing that I said about my family, like they're trying to ruin you. You know what I mean? It's just, at the time, my family makes real good food, and I had to frame it in that sense when I was 23 years old in order to make sure that I followed my meal plan, because I needed to make sure I stayed fit, right? So in terms of that, it was like, get outside of the house daily, speak on FaceTime with a friend daily, meditate intentionally, wake up at or before 8 a.m., whatever the case may be. And this is me just starting where I was. It was me dialing in my foundational habits. And if you see here, it's like I was just writing these to-do lists every single day, regardless of how I felt. And it was my workouts, and it was this, and it was this, and it was this, and it was just, me just dialing myself in, me with affirmations. I am this, and just continuing to go and just continuing to build, you know what I mean? So that's what it's about, guys. It's really just about dialing in your mindset and starting where you're at, because it's easy to look at someone like myself who's done decent, and at least in the business realm, and done decent for himself personally, and done decent with just from where I was to where I'm at now, and I still have a lot of room to grow, obviously. It's easy to look at me and say, man, I want to get to where Aaron's at, without realizing that it was all built brick by brick. It wasn't something that just happened overnight for me. It was me reading the books. It was me waking up. It was me doing the meditations. It was me substituting bad information for good information. It was me substituting bad thoughts for good thoughts. It was me sometimes having to get rid of certain people in my life in order to go to the next level, because sometimes people are here for lifetime. Some people are here for seasonal. Some people are here for reasons to teach you lessons about yourself. You know, but until you start realizing, hey, I got to start from where I'm at right now and then build it brick by brick. That way in 5 years from now, I can look back at the kingdom that I built and I can have some integrity and some real gratitude for it and say, man, I did this thing myself kind of thing each and every single day, and until it happened into fruition. You know, unless you can realize that over time and really realize that your life will be built based upon the problems that you solve, and the bigger problems that you solve, the better your life's going to be. That's the way to really move forward. Because I remember for a long time also, just to bring it back home a little bit, instead of me kind of building where I was, I would also focus on the wrong problems. So in business, this can look like you focusing on what colors your business logo is going to be, and you spent 6 months contemplating if you should use red or green or yellow or purple, instead of just choosing something and just rocking with it. And if you got to change it later, you'll change it later. You know what I mean? And then for me, it was, at the time, it was like caffeine. So caffeine was something I was trying to quit, and recently I was going to try to quit caffeine again, but until I realized, is that really a problem that you need to be solving? You know, is that something that you really need to be solving right now when like most of the country is caffeinated and you can agree with it or disagree with it? But if you're at where you're at right now and you want to go to the next level, you need every advantage that you can get. So it's like, why? And you like, solve bigger problems, bro. I had to talk to myself about that recently. Like, dude, just solve bigger problems. And that can go the same thing for you. If you're constantly worrying about waking up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 12 a.m., whatever time you're trying to wake up at, man, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, just make sure that the time from when you wake up to the time you go to bed, you're just getting the things done that you got to get done, you know, and just never stop this journey. Because I have my other booklet here somewhere. Maybe I'll have to do that on another episode. But if you all look at some of the problems that I was solving back then versus what I'm doing now, they're much more different. Nowadays, it's like posting on TikTok, three TikToks a day. And now it's like doing the YouTube videos that I got to be doing. And now it's like making sure my clients are taken care of and having some SOPs built out and systems built out and content creation calendars and research on SEO stuff and just all these things that are much bigger problems for me to solve, and building like an organic outbound team and trying to figure out what to do with the Instagram, because the organic reach isn't there anymore, but it's like it's still a relevant platform. So it's like, what do we do? You know what I mean? So now the problems that I'm solving for are much bigger than back then, which was stepping outside of the house and getting on a FaceTime call with a friend daily. You know what I mean? And I couldn't be any more grateful for these problems that have been happening in a good manner, you know, because when you can solve these problems, that's how you get to the next level in your life. And the only way to get to the next level in life is to solve these problems and build it brick by brick by brick, no matter what happens. So I just wanted to give you all some motivation, some inspiration, and let you all know that if you want to go to the next level, it's about starting where you are right now and then building from there gradually, not trying to go from level 0 to level 100 immediately. Your actual skill set is going to be based on how quickly you progress through those levels, more so than skipping over levels. Because when you skip over levels, you can also skip over some of the lessons that would have helped you maintain that level and get to the next one. So there's, say for example, some of these music artists that are out here popping out. Some of them will have one hit and they have had no foundational work in order to sustain a certain level of pace and a certain level of consistency with themselves and studio time or whatever the case may be. So what ends up happening is they get a hit, they get complacent. Versus you see someone like Jack Harlow, shout out to Jack. I've been following this dude since like 2017. This guy's been putting in work, and now he's got the fruits of his labor coming in. And it's just like he knows that he can keep on building because he's been putting in the work on that consistent basis over time. He just kind of focused on the progress, focused on the process, and then he just has to keep on doing what he's doing at a bigger level. You know, and that's what I plan on doing here with this YouTube channel, where it's just like film the content kind of thing, focus on the fitness, still get my workouts in, and then all we have to do is just keep on playing this game, and then the level of how we're playing it will rise. But the process in and of itself doesn't change. You know, the environment and the surroundings of it change just based on your skill set and the way that you progress through it. So love you all very much. Just make sure that whenever you're building something, you're building it the right way. Don't try to skip any levels. Do it the right way, because there's nothing that I'm more grateful for than that dark period in my life back then, because I can talk about it and I can let you all know that I'm not coming at this YouTube channel or coming at this content from a place of superiority. I'm coming at this from a place of understanding, because I was where you were at right now, feeling stuck and feeling kind of overwhelmed and not knowing how to get to the next level. And right now I'm in that process of going from right now I'm doing everything I wished I wanted to do back then. And then now it's like to the next level, which is a whole different group of people I have to be associating with, a whole different way of thinking I have to associate myself with, a whole different way of carrying myself that I have to associate with, and just building this entire thing brick by brick to make sure that we're set forever and that Basics becomes everything I want it to, and that this YouTube channel hits 100K subscribers and then 1 million subscribers, and I want 10 million subscribers. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I'm calling it right now. I'm a very, very hard-nosed man, so if I say something, I'm gonna do it. So I love you all very much. Remember to keep on putting that work in, enjoy the process, and over time the results will speak for themselves. Love you all very much, and again, if you want to find out more information to see how you qualify to work one-on-one with the Basics team, please visit www.basicsbrigade.com. And again, if no one's told you in a minute, I will tell you right now, it's time to get your shit together, man. See ya.